everybody, to another episode of Brandon's Face. It's the podcast about a playlist. I'm one half of your hosting duo. My name is Jonathan Beardsley, and as always, I'm joined by the one and only Brandon May. Brandon, I have a question to start this week's episode off with.
All right, let's go.
Would you rather stay at the Freddie Gibbs Triple S Hotel, Casino and Resort, or Arctic Monkeys Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Honestly,
So,
I want to say Freddie's SSS, but I kind of think I'd have a better time at Tranquility, you know?
Yeah, I'd have to revisit the Arctic Monkeys album to really get the minutia and the layout of that back. I do remember they have a taqueria on the roof. That's mentioned. That's nice. I'm down to go there. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, big fan of that.
Freddie's Hotel feels like the gambling would be good, but then you also have like Joe Rogan running around in Kevlar underwear.
I was going to say you got to run into Jeff Ross and shit.
Jeff Ross with 20 baby mamas or whatever it is. Man, yeah, I think I'm going to go Arctic Monkeys with this. I feel like that's the old person in me, even though Freddie is older than me.
Yeah, I mean, Freddie's pretty young at heart, and you know.
We'll talk about Freddie.
We'll get into Freddie Gibbs later this episode.
Yeah. If this is your first time listening to us, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the channel if you haven't already. You can also like this video. If you find us on Instagram, make sure to follow us there at Brandon's Face Pod. You can find us on Reddit. If you're listening to us on Spotify, make sure to rate us 5 stars. That would be pretty awesome. Brandon, you ready to talk about some music, buddy?
I love music, John.
I love music too, man. Maybe that's why we talk about it for like an hour every week. We got not a lot of singles this week, but a lot of albums to get into. But let's run through the singles first. First up, we got a new one from Honey Dijon and Channel Trust called Show Me Some Love featuring Sadie Walker. What are your thoughts on this?
This is basically just a Channel Trust track. I barely hear any Honey Dijon on this, but I do love it. And, you know, it's cool. It's cool to see both of their names on the same track, you know?
I think they're a match made in heaven. I think that their sounds blend nicely. I can hear a little of both of them.
All right, fair.
You know what this needs? A Zoo remix. This is a song that needs a Zoo remix.
You know, maybe it does.
It's like Beetlejuice. Are you really sure you want that?
Don't say it 3 times, John.
Next up, we got a new one from Eats Everything and Fatboy Slim called Bristol to Brighton. From Palm Springs to Portland, Brandon, we bang, buddy. How you doing? How you liking this one?
I don't know what I expected. I love both Eats Everything and Fatboy Slim, and it was probably a legitimate like dream come true for Eats Everything to work with Fatboy Slim because, you know, he's an icon. You know, he's just a fucking legend. This is a club track that needs to basically only be played in England. It's great for what it is. I don't connect with Bristol and Brighton.
I agree. But props to Eats Everything for getting to work with an absolute legend.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we got a new one from Ciara and Summer Walker called Better Things. This one is very unexpected, but I thought it was pretty good. I like this up-tempo R&B. What are you thinking of this one?
Has Ciara been putting out music? I feel like I haven't heard of anything since, like, Goodies. So
yeah, she's definitely put out music since Goodies. I feel like she's put out a couple tracks this year. Nothing that's really caught my eye until now, though.
This track is good, man. Summer Walker is tolerable for me on this one.
I think it's the up-tempo. I think you just need her up-tempo.
Yeah, that's super fair.
Next up, we got a new one from Division featuring Jagged Edge called What's Up. This is the second best song called What's Up this year because Mom Jeans is #1 in that category. My review is great singer, terrible boyfriend. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh man, yeah, that sums it up, right? This is a fantastic vocal performance. So
it is.
I think they both did pretty well.
Props to Division for getting to work with some legends in their own right, and he hits the note at the end of this that made him an R&B star. So there's that.
Yeah. Yep.
Next up, we got a new one from Smino and J. Cole called 90 Proof. And I'm really curious to know what you feel about this one.
This is an interesting track. I do like it. Cole is great on this one, and Smino is doing his thing pretty well. I guess. I don't really know.
I don't think Smino's the issue. I don't think Cole's bad. Is the J. Cole flow getting stale at all?
Is J. Cole getting stale?
I mean, yeah, we could broaden the question. It's just he's like the flow is predictable at this point. That's kind of my issue with it. And I guess that's not like a bad thing. There's a little bit of that with Nas now. But I don't know, something about it just when I can predict it this much, it doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, I can feel that. Maybe that's why this didn't hit me so hard.
Maybe that's it. But I think Smino's got such a unique style and so much personality in his music that even when I don't connect with it, I'm really impressed in how he pulls it off because it's unlike anyone else.
Yeah, that's very true. This is definitely unique, and that stank face on the album cover is perfect.
Great. That is me every time I try and drink hard alcohol. Next up, we got a new one from Paramour, Brandon, called "This Is Why." It's more pop funk than pop punk. It's different, but I like it. What do you think about this one?
I'm not surprised it isn't pop punk because they haven't really been in that area for a while, right? On their last couple of albums, it's been more pop centric than punk centric, which is fine. I liked this a lot. I am excited for a new record, and I think Haley's voice sounds fucking great.
Yeah, I think that it sounds like a mixture of their last album, After Laughter, and her last album, Petals for Armor, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, super does.
I think we're going to get another. This record is, I think, February 10th.
Nice.
But I think we'll get another single, before then.
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll get one, maybe two more, but I really don't want them to drop like fucking 6 of them. That's such a long album rollout.
They're not going to take the Matt Lange rollout approach.
I'm still so weirded out by that, but I still love that album, man. They actually ended up. Yet? Yeah, it's out. The full thing's out yet, for sure.
I know.
It's out.
We reviewed it.
No, we didn't review the whole thing. That's a conversation for another day, bro.
Oh, God damn it.
I still think it's fucking great, but God, he butchered that.
Yeah, that was confusing. Next up, we got a new one from Aim High called Flannel Season. I just thought the playlist needed a little more pop punk this week, so I added this. What do you think of this band and this song?
This has major hit the lights energy, and I am here for it. This was great. Yeah.
I found this band a few weeks ago, and you should definitely check out their album Local Band Forever if you liked this, because it's more of the same, but it's really good.
Love that. Love that.
All right, next up, we got a new one from Arctic Monkeys called Body Paint that I've kind of seen a divisive reaction to online. I enjoy it. It still sounds like the beautiful proggy cinematic space rock, with a lounge twist. But I don't know. It's just Arctic Monkeys music to me. It's this current period they're in. It's kind of what I expected, but I guess it's not what other people were expecting or wanting. What did you think of it?
Well, I really like this one, and you sent me the music video for it. It's artsy as fuck, obviously.
The video's fucking incredible.
The strings are great. The vocal performance is spot on. I think that judging by this song and this song alone, I think we're going to get a pretty cool blend of styles from AM and Tranquility. So I'm excited for that.
Me too. I think in touching on what everyone's kind of mad about, I do hope that there's some riffs on the album. We're obviously all hoping for some good riffs.
I think we're going to get some riffs. I think that they know that we're just clamoring for it, and they're good at them. That's why we want the riffs from them, So
exactly.
I can't imagine that they would leave us with only the power chords that they've put out, and that's it forever. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I think it's going to be slightly less riffy than AM, but slightly more riffy than Tranquility. So we'll see. Hopefully, maybe I'm just speaking, putting positivity into the world. You know what I'm saying?
There's nothing wrong with that, man. We need some of that.
Right.
And we will find out soon. That album drops in a few weeks.
Yep.
Next up, we got a new one from Devin Townsend that you added on here called Call of the Void. Talk to me about this.
Alrighty, so I realized that as this track came out, I was like, "Hey, we haven't ever talked about Devin Townsend." This is prog rock, I mean, obviously. He has a number of different like side projects and a number of different like his own projects. He has Devin Townsend, which we're listening to now, and he has the Devin Townsend Experience or Project or something like that. Yeah, man, I really like this. It's beautiful rock music. He makes really kind of atmospheric, kind of weird prog rock that sometimes I don't like, but I really liked this song. So I'm curious what you thought about this.
I thought that the song was good. I didn't really know how to describe it though. What would you say this is? Like modern 80s alternative?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like it's weird. It is weird, and his entire discography is super fucking weird. But it's good, and you can't really escape it being good. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. All right, next up, we got a new one from Dirtwire called Joshua Tree. This isn't the first time we've talked about them, right?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. But this song in particular, I sent you a video after hearing this, and there's a Portlandia sketch that pretty much riffs on how so many TV shows have a similar title sequence music, like True Blood and The Jinx and all of those.
Right.
And this song instantly evokes that. It's all I can hear when I think of it. And who knows, maybe they'll get a contract off of that. That would be pretty awesome.
Look, man, I like Dirtwire. They make interesting music and they use the most interesting instruments. And quite honestly, you may need to see them live to get it because I didn't quite get it until I saw them perform. I saw them at Pappy and Harriet's and right, in between all of the Joshua trees up there. And it was a really cool musical performance because they use a lot of instruments that are rare and hard to find, and a lot of the shit that we hear, electronic DJs kind of triggering with their MIDI controllers. They use the instruments that were created to make those sounds, which I think is super fucking neat. This song isn't anything that's out of this world crazy fucking cool, but I really like this band. So I laughed hard when you sent me that Portlandia skit, man.
She took her shirt off twice.
Let's throw
that in the show notes.
Most definitely.
All right, let's go on. We got one EP this week. It's Frank and Tony, the Early Years. I think this is a re-release of a bunch of their older stuff. We don't really cover a lot of down-tempo ambient EDM stuff, but I like it. It's very tranquil.
So this is actually pretty fucking cool. I don't know much about Frank and Tony, but I think this is really awesome. This music is originally from 2012. I guess Frank and Tony and Bob Moses were both kind of in the underground New York scene together, which is how Bob Moses got their name. Neither of their names are Bob. Bob Moses was the architect that designed a lot of the public works system in New York. But I guess
I thought it was Ted Mosby.
Yeah. Don't pull a Mosby right now, bro. I guess Bob Moses signed to Domino Records pretty unexpectedly, and they had done a few collaborations and stuff like that never ended up getting released because of some contractual or whatever. And so finally, I guess they must have cleared stuff like this, so we're getting this now, and that's why they called it the Early Years. It's really fun to hear how they've kind of progressed musically. It reminds me of their record that they released in 2015 called All in All. I still listen to that a couple of times a year, and I cannot for the life of me find a decently priced record of that. But I love this group. I don't know who Frank and Tony is, but Minimal House is indeed my jam, as you know. And I think I may dive into some of their work.
You should, man. I thought this was really good as well. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it. It's very Bob Moses, and you can hear I forget his name, homie's voice on a lot of them, and
right away.
It's really cool to see where they've come from. If you go and you listen to you know, some of their more recent work like Battle Lines or something like that, and then back to this, you can like feel the progression, you know. And Bob Moses is now like a household name thanks to Ellen. I don't know if you know that. That's how they blew up. They went on Ellen.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, they went on Ellen, and I guess Ellen was listening to the radio, and they played what's that song? I forget the song name. It's off of their Days Gone By album. And I guess they played that song live, and the next year they were playing Coachella. Like it was a big deal. So
that's wild.
Isn't it wild?
I wonder if any other electronic artists have blown up from Ellen.
Well, that's the thing, is that they make electronic music, but they are indeed a band. So it kind of fit for that, you know? You wouldn't. It did. We won't be seeing, you know, like a Chemical Brothers SNL skit or SNL
the glitch
performance.
Mob on
the glitch mob on Ellen. Like we won't be seeing
Drink
that,
the
you know?
Sea. Like, could you imagine like just a soccer mom saying "Drink the Sea" performed live on Ellen?
I can't imagine for some reason David Guetta on Ellen.
Or Animus Vox.
Right. Oh jeez.
Oh my god. All right, man. Ready? Let's talk about the albums. Yes, I was born ready. I've been waiting for this for years, man. Freddie Gibbs, his new album, Soul Sold Separately, is finally out. And my man, this is a 10. This is like I text you instantly. This is my new front runner for album of the year. I've been waiting for this since 2020 when he signed with Warner Brothers. Freddie with a major label budget behind him is a beautiful thing, man. The singles he's released since signing with them are Four Things, Gang Signs, Big Boss Rabbit, Black Illuminati, and Ice Cream. All of those are among my favorite rap songs this decade. And I was a little worried when I saw none of those songs would be on the album, but my worries were quickly eased when I heard the first official singles, Too Much and Dark Hearted. Both outstanding, but this album has nothing but outstanding music on it, honestly. The beats, the lyrics, the flows, the conceptual tie-ins, it's all there. It's all top-notch. Some of my favorite things about this album, on Couldn't Be Done, the way he fucking sings off-key in the bridge right before Kelly Price comes in. Very Freddie. The unofficial Alfredo reunion on Blackest in the Room. The weird Bone Thugs mellow rap hook on Pain and Strife, how he makes a one-verse song like Zipper Bags so great, the seamless transition from Too Much to Lobster Omelet, and yet another incredible collab between him and Rick Ross. Everything about Space Rabbit is just great. The contrast of Anderson's hook and Raekwon's verse on Feel No Pain, I really enjoyed that. Although I don't know if Anderson .Paak knows what album he's on when he's singing on this. It's a little different at times. Every bar on Rabbit Vision is great, but none feels more important than a lot of shit. It broke my heart, but it fixed my vision. That's I love that line so fucking much, man. And he delivers it with just such earnest, like, I love it. Him going full fucking 3-6 Mafia on PYS with DJ Paul. I could listen to Freddie and Push trade verses over beats like Gold Rings forever, man. Hearing them on the same track just doesn't even feel real to me. Grandma's Stove is as beautiful as it is heartbreaking. That track really feels like the conscious heart of the album. It's not the most fun, but it feels like the most important to me and easily the most personal. Part of me hoped he would have ended the album with that track, but he's right back to being classic Freddie on CIA. And I can imagine his eyes lighting up when he realized CIA could be an acronym for Crack, Instagram, and AIDS. You know that's just like a Freddie thought where he's like, for sure. I got it. Any retaliation against Instagram he can take, I suppose.
Right, exactly.
Unban him. That's just fucking stupid. Unban him, guys. Freddie tweeted that he thinks Decoded is going to be Scarface's last verse. I wasn't expecting much from it being a bonus track, but it's fucking awesome, and that would be a hell of an appearance to go out on. I could honestly go on all day about the things I love about this album. I'm going to leave it here for now. This is my favorite album from my favorite artist. Unwavering 10. Any of these songs could be my favorite on any day, but I'm going to say Lobster Omelet if I had to pick one.
All right.
But how did you feel about this album, buddy?
Well, I'm going to tell you, John. I actually went track by track on this one because, like you,
Break
I
it down.
listened to this record an uncomfortable amount of times. So from the first 30 seconds of "Couldn't Be Done," I knew that I was in for a treat. This album has just been fantastic on every listen. We have poetic lyrics combined with modern productions kind of meets old school production styles. A bunch of throwbacks, obviously, like you said, with like the full 3-6 Mafia, and then you've got some Bone Thugs and Harmony influence on Pain. Yeah, man. I did expect for it to be a little bit more thematically cohesive, but he does weave the voicemails in, and the idea that he was kind of holed up in the penthouse suite writing this with, and like the imagery that kind of surrounded the release of, like the website that they created,
Yeah.
all tied together pretty nicely. So I'll say I kind of expected it to be a little bit more thematically cohesive, but this was plenty.
Fair.
So like I said, Couldn't Be Done is fucking great and almost a perfect introduction to this record. Blackest in the Room follows up with this kind of soulful intro that melts into something a little jazzy, a little thug, and way too short. But it's interrupted by a great little voicemail message and then transitions into Pain and Strife. This track has a great hook. I don't really like Offset or his verse on this, but I do really enjoy everything Gibbs does on this one, and the production with that kind of low-ended flute behind everything is fantastic.
I agree.
And then the strings, obviously, on the back end, the transition into zipper bags is phenomenal. This track is okay. It's probably my least favorite Zipper Bags is, even though it's still good for comparison to basically all rap this year. So maybe I'm being a little bit too critical there. Too Much, being the lead single, is obviously a fantastic choice. The chorus and the production that both kind of follows and precedes the lyrics at kind of just the right times makes this a fucking banger, man, with actual musicality. Someone does need to tell Bag that fetuses don't exist in the stomach. It's a uterus, bro. But the way
balling as a fetus, dude. Come on.
Oh man, all this money that I got, I could never get too much, is just the chorus line of the fucking year, man. It's catchy as fuck. And then obviously, like you mentioned, and I texted you about that on Thursday night, that transition into Lobster Omelet is just perfect with kind of the gradual slow down and then pick up into the next beat. Freddie kills this one, as he does with every other track on this, and we get the rare, not so awesome Rick Ross feature. I know you liked it. I thought that it was meh for a Rick Ross feature, but again, I might be being a little bit too critical. Sure. Maybe it's just that he's kind of showcasing like right next to Freddie that makes me think it's meh, but whatever. We have now arrived at my standout, Space Rabbit.
Yes.
If someone cuts my cocaine with Klonopin, I would probably thank them. There's like minty freshness, kind of adds to them. It's to the aesthetic. I like this track best because it's Freddie Gibbs doing what Freddie Gibbs does best, rapping over unique productions while making it seem easy, while he raps absolute circles around every rapper in the game, and he adds a level of depth to the lyricism that really only he can do. I've heard a lot of raps about cocaine and trapping in my day, and Freddie Gibbs finds a way to make it gorgeous. I didn't really have a different adjective for that. This track is far too short, but he absolutely kills this beat, and Jeff Ross on the back end makes me happy for some reason.
Yeah, you get a mini roast of Freddie Gibbs.
And then we come up to one of my favorite lines on this next track. Shit's heavy, but I carry it with ease. Like a high school janitor, I carry in them keys. Oh, sorry. I just had to get that one out of the way. That's the best rhyme of the year for me. Feel No Pain is this kind of like Latin-inspired production with absolutely perfect features. Both Pac and Raekwon just kill it. Again, he mastered the transitions on this record. Rabbit Vision starts, and I am just instantly entranced. One of the longest tracks on this record, and I can't help myself from telling myself all week, a lot of shit has broke my heart, but it fixed my vision. Again, trap lyrics, jazzy production with just this beautiful aesthetic and feeling. I don't really know how to describe it, man. PYS is good, but it's fucking great to hear DJ Paul. I actually fell into the 3-6 Mafia Memphis kind of satanic sacrifice rap rabbit hole. That's a pun, rabbit hole. This year, and I have thoroughly enjoyed kind of looking up all of that lore with all of the tapes that were traded, and I just find it wildly fascinating. This track transitions obviously into Dark Hearted, which we covered, but I cannot express how insanely beautiful this is for the lyrical content. It's just a great track with a hook that just won't quit. I almost can't believe I'm saying it, but Freddie wrapped circles around Push on this track, bro. Just his verse on Gold Rings is just so much better than Push's, in my opinion. And this was my most anticipated, but I think it might actually be one of my least favorite tracks on the record, simply because I expected a little bit more from Push, but whatever. Grandma's Stove is a good track, and we get to see Freddie get a little bit more personal than he's used to normally. He shows a little bit of vulnerability, and I kind of like it. He shows some of the mindset of trapping that is not what we normally see. You're never going to hear Young Thug get this vulnerable, people. There's real hardship here. Music Soul Child's verse is fucking great. CIA is fucking hilarious. As a light conspiracy theorist, I appreciate this song. Overall, this album is fucking fantastic. I'm going to give it a 9.5 because there are a couple of things that I didn't. It's maybe a 9.8, right? Okay. I don't think it's a 10 sure. for me, but the Space Rabbit and obviously that Scarface feature is fucking great on the bonus track. But I listen to this all week. It's been every day, and it'll probably be every day for a long time. So yeah,
perfect runtime, 45 minutes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great album. I love that one. I know you just talked a lot. I'm going to ask you to talk a little more because next up we got Slipknot. This one is The End So Far. And yeah, please take a drink of water if you need to, because I'm much more interested in your thoughts on this one than mine.
Alrighty. So,
are you ready, maggots? Fucking maggots.
When was the last time you listened to Tool's Fear Inoculum? Both the song and the album.
I've been wanting to talk to you about that album. The last time, probably 2 years ago.
Okay, great. If you go back and listen to the intro of Fear Inoculum, you'll hear almost the exact same thing as the intro to this record, which is kind of weird for me because Tool and Slipknot should be on just completely different levels. But I get it, I guess. Maybe it's like an homage. I don't know. There's a ton of singing on this record, and I think that's a good thing. Too much. I don't know about too much, man. They're still their own thing. I'm not going to go song by song on this one because I think it's unnecessary, but I did enjoy this record front to back. We get some throwback moments, like some of the riffs that play a little bit of fan service, like some of the drum beat on the Chapeltown Rag. We get a couple of cool riffs on, I think it's Hive Mind. Sure. Yeah, I mean there's a couple of really cool, almost Iowa adjacent riffs. We also get a couple of really cool Sid DJ scratches. We get some Corey Taylor screams, and we get some Corey Taylor cleans. I'm convinced, though, that if their self-titled was released today, everybody would complain. There's been a bunch of people online saying this isn't metal. I mean, obviously they're a pop metal band now, and the fact that they're still drop D tuning and staying as close to their original sound as they are kind of means that we should just be grateful that we should just be grateful. I don't know, man. This band will forever hold a very special place in my heart for introducing me to the heavier side of music. It's not my favorite record of theirs by far, but I enjoyed my time with it. We're never going to get lyrics like, I want to slit your throat and fuck the wound anymore. We're just not going to get that from Slipknot, nor are we going to get that from Corey Taylor, the father of two, happily married. We're just not going to get that anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, I gave this one a 7. I did enjoy it. I will say, you said that there was too much singing on this. You're totally allowed to think that. I think that it's fine. I think that we got Iowa and self-titled, and they were children basically at the time, and that was 23 fucking years ago. So what else can we expect, you know?
Hey, that's a fair takeaway, man. This was the only album this week I didn't really enjoy.
Okay.
And some of the instrumentation is good, and some of the vocals are interesting, but just there was not a lot of moments that I really cared to come back to. And I feel like you nailed it. I feel like how much you enjoy this album comes down to how much you're going to enjoy the more clean, heavy pop rock sound of theirs now. And I just don't enjoy it that much. H377 was like my main standout because that's thrashy.
It's a great one.
Back to the screaming.
That's also my standout. I forgot to say that.
Hey, fuck yeah. But in terms of my score, man, this one's like a 4 for me. I didn't really enjoy it.
Okay. Super
And
fair.
yeah, I think that I didn't really notice it at the time, but I think that intro played a big role in that. It's so off-putting for a Slipknot album to open that way.
It super is. I mean, on Iowa, we get those like weird kind of like chains clanging in a basement kind of sound with like a scream, and then we get kind of a similar like spooky vibe on Volume 3, and they've come very far from that time. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're still just as metal as they used to be, because they're definitely most definitely not, but they're still doing their thing. And there was some fan service and some throwbacks in here to keep people like me who did hear about them in the early 2000s or late 1990s to, you know, hey guys, we're still us, we're just a little softer now, we have kids and shit.
And I think that's fair, man. And Joey's not a part of the band anymore. Obviously, that the sound's going to change. And if you remember back, man, when Volume 3 came out, people hated that and thought it was too soft. I love that album.
Oh, that album's awesome.
Incredible. But I went back and listened to this, or to that, when listening to this, to be like, oh, maybe it's just like I'm not used to soft Slipknot, and no, it's completely different. Yeah,
that's a heavy album, bro.
Very heavy.
I think everybody was just kind of. I mean, look, man, Iowa was heavy. Iowa was heavy, both lyrically, compositionally. We had a lot more Clown banging on those kegs. I actually had the thought: do you think that Clown like has his own like studio kegs and then like live kegs, or do you think that? I don't know.
Good question.
I think I asked Corey.
How do you mic a keg?
How do you mic a keg? I'm wildly interested in that. I'm sure they talk about it somewhere. But Clown's kids are now old enough to be in their own bands now. Like, so I think we all just have to take a second, step back for a minute, and say, hey, they put out some of the heaviest shit that we'd ever heard back in 2001, and that was that moment in time. They're never gonna release Eat, Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. You know, like they're just not gonna do that again. So it just is what it is.
We need to keep a log of all these questions, like how do you mic a keg, and then do a Q&A episode with Anthony one day.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I'm sure he would have like at least some sort of an idea, right?
He would have an answer for you. All right, man. Let's move on to this Yeah Yeah Yeahs album. It's called Cool It Down. This album is very similar to the New Metric album in that it's well written and performed, but it's also a little boring. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm underwhelmed by it, but I don't think I had any crazy expectations for it. But it's not an album that leaves me feeling or thinking about much of anything by the time each listen is over. And like you said, when we reviewed Spinning Off the Edge of the World, it feels kind of more like a Perfume Genius song than a Yeah Yeah Yeahs song. Yeah. Love Bomb is kind of a snoozer. Wolf and Burning are both fucking awesome. I think those songs are the easy standouts. Fleece is fine. I don't know, man. It's a good album. It's just not a very exciting one. I have it at a 6. Either Wolf or Burning would be my standout.
Well, I also have it at a 6. Okay. I thought a lot about this actually, so I do a little bit of reviewing here. So we'll get into that first. I think that there are fantastic vocal performances on this album, both from Karen O, and I really like Perfume's vocal performance on the intro. But Love Bomb is kind of like droning, kind of artsy, but didn't really hit the nail on whatever head they were looking at, and Wolf has this kind of synthy vibe to it, which is good. It's another great vocal performance from Karen. Fleas has a bass line that I think is really infectious. Kind of almost has like an electro feel to it. That breakdown towards the end is pretty funky. We then kind of like immediately switch it up after Fleas to go into Burning, which we covered already when the single dropped, and it doesn't really change my opinion about it being a good track with the context of the album, and that's kind of my main complaint here. It's and we'll come back to that, but it's still a good track and has that kind of classic Yeah Yeah Yeahs feel to it. Blacktop kind of opens up and everything just slows down. The guitar pedals they used, or maybe that's like a synth towards the middle of the track, are pretty fucking cool, but then we kind of speed right up again into this pretty time and synth-filled world of Different Today. The song is beautiful. It really is on its own. And then we close out the record with Mars, which, let's be real, is kind of a weak closer. I feel like after so long without a Yeah Yeah Yeahs album, we could have gotten something a bit longer, a bit more cohesive. The kind of jarring juxtaposition between quicker tempos and down tempos kind of made my attention drift. And while I enjoyed every song for what it was, I did not enjoy this album as a whole. And I think that that's, if you compartmentalize every song on this album, then yeah, if you maybe rearrange the songs a little bit, maybe have Burning be the closer and maybe have like Blacktop be the opener and have kind of that Perfume Genius feature be kind of that transition between the two sounds of the record, I think it could have been really cool, but it just lacks this level of cohesion that is kind of expected from a band of this caliber. I mean, am I too far off base here? Like I
You're
feel
right
like
on.
I
agree
feel
with
like
everything you're saying.
I feel like they could have. It feels like they didn't put as much love into this record as we wanted them to, and I think that's mainly my main complaint. Burning is my standard. I also gave it a 6. I really wanted to like this one, and again, I did like every song. There's not a song that I don't like on this record. It's just I don't like them together. They don't fit together. So
yeah,
they
I
put
agree.
they
I
put
don't
out
like Love Bomb.
Love Bomb is boring. It is boring. But then it kind of just, it picks right back up again with Wolf, and then it like slows back down again, and then it's just all over the place thematically, and it's just not yeah yeah yeahs. So
I agree. Kind of disappointing, even though we're giving it semi-positive scores.
I enjoyed the songs, just
good
didn't
music.
like the album.
Good music, not a good album.
There it is.
There it is. All right. Let's move on to this Craig David, because I cannot fucking wait anymore, my man. This is the deluxe edition of 22, and I didn't know what ratio of garage to R&B we'd get with this album, but I'm not only blown away by the amount of R&B on this album, but the quality of it. He not only sounds great for this phase of his career, but he sounds great compared to the rest of the current R&B class. There's still a lot of garage and pop on this album, but I even enjoy those songs. And I even though I feel like this is more or less a return to his R&B roots, that's very evident from the first song. Teardrops samples John B's They Don't Know, which is a classic R&B song, which sets the tone for the just classic that this song is. It's an instant classic. It uses that voicemail filter that he has become so synonymous with. I texted Anthony the other day and I was like, when did that become just a part of his sound and not something he did in one song? He's like, I think he was born doing that. He uses it better than anybody. From there, we get most of the garage tracks, but with some R&B and fusion tracks mixed in, like G-Love. I'm glad he put iSong on the album. It's not my favorite song, but it feels like an important one in terms of the lineage of UK R&B. Obvious is an incredible collaboration and one of his best R&B songs in a long time. Gold is a kind of sleeper hit. Maybe is like guilty pleasure. One of my favorite songs on this album. That's like if you got in my car, I would not play that, but if you get out of my car, I'm playing that song instantly.
I love that metric to judge tracks by. In the car, no. Out of the car, absolutely.
Yes. Gets Like That, another R&B hit. Best of Me is another solid one. Meant to Be. Good God, that's like album cut R&B Craig David at its best. Fucking love it. The last two tracks are pretty good. There's a lot of great music on this album, and as much as I love all the R&B on it, I think he killed it with the pop and the garage and everything else. This isn't his best album. When you drop a classic like Born to Do It, that's not really the goal with every new album, but this is probably his most balanced album since kind of adapting this more pop EDM heavy style, and easily his best vocally since his first two albums, in my opinion. He not only hasn't aged, he quite frankly sounds better than he has in a long time. And I don't feel like he ever went away. I feel like the rest of the music world just needed to catch up to him and his style. And now that it has, we're not only able to appreciate him for the legend he is, but we're able to appreciate this part of his career for what it is as well. I love this much more than I was expecting, and I have this one on like a strong 8 bordering a 9. My standout is either Teardrops, Obvious, or Meant to Be, but it's a pick 'em. How did you feel about this one, man? I'm curious.
All right, John. I know that you prefer kind of like the strictly R&B Craig David, but he does this pop sound so fucking well. It's bouncy, kind of house-inspired pop with some of the best vocals in the game. I don't know how to describe this better. It's all great. It's entertaining. It's easy to listen to. I love that it has songwriting that is like R&B inspired while still being the pop that kind of works really well. The strings on Who You Are just wonderful. I think he chose his features really well, and I think they all sound great, but I really just like it when it's kind of just Craig on the track, man. He has a way about him that just works for this style. I think Give It All Up might be my standout. I think this is such a fun track. I gave this one an 8. I really, really enjoyed this one, man.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm really glad you enjoyed this one. It's honestly a mind-blowing album that it came out this good for as long as it is, and he has already announced a super deluxe edition dropping I think this week with
I did notice that DNA 2 isn't on this one, so I'm assuming DNA 2 is going to be on the super deluxe of the deluxe.
That was in my notes as a slight criticism as why is DNA Part 2 not on here, but yeah, it has 2 extra songs and 2 acoustic songs, DNA Part 2 being one of the acoustic songs. So shouts out to Craig David. I will be buying tickets to see him whenever he tours America again.
I'm sure you will, man. I'm sure you will. He definitely knows what he's doing.
Speaking of buying tickets, Brandon, I'm going to see Amine live with the Organ Symphony next month.
That's so fucking awesome, man.
Jesus Christ.
That's so awesome.
$30 for tickets.
That's
Can
nothing.
you believe that?
That's nothing.
No, it's fucking nothing, man. I am beyond excited for that show.
What's the venue like? Have you been there?
It's where the symphony normally plays.
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome.
So, yeah, I've taken pictures of like the marquee sign outside. It's kind of like a Portland landmark, but no, I've never been inside. Very excited for that. I will be sending you lots of pictures and videos.
Please, I cannot wait.
Yeah, that's going to be incredible. One night only. I can't fucking wait.
Amine only. I'm sorry, Armin only. I'm sorry, Amine only.
Oh my God. You know what? Before we move on to this Tycho album, what producer, now that you've kind of heard pop EDM Craig David at his best, what EDM producer would you like Craig David to work with?
Zed.
Ooh, I love that.
That was off the cuff. I hadn't even thought about that, but as soon as you asked the question, it's Zed. Let's go.
Ooh.
I know he works really well with like female vocalists, but Craig David's got the voice, man.
No, he for sure has the voice. I would love to hear that. That would be incredible.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, man. Let's move on to this Tycho mix. So we got Tycho's new album / DJ mix called Back to Mine. It is not a new album. It's a DJ mix. And we've never covered a DJ mix on this podcast. So I threw this on because I thought it would be interesting. The mix itself is described as a personal collection for after hours grooving, which makes a lot of sense when you hear it. It's the same lo-fi-esque traits of Tycho's music. They're present throughout here, but it has a slightly different energy to it than his typical albums. And I like hearing him mix other artists' songs like this, but my favorite moments of the mix are the ones that sound the most like Tycho. The whole mix is really good, man, but that 3-song run of Last Sunset, of course that's happening, and Our Park by Night is my favorite part of the mix. It's just beautiful.
Yep.
I got this one at a 7. Last Sunset's my standout. I don't know if we're judging this one like that.
I didn't rate it because it's not an album, but whatever.
What did you think of this?
All right, so this is how Spotify is going to do mixes. I heard that they were kind of piloting something back in 2021 so that EDM producers can do DJ mixes on the platform. I'm glad we're starting to see them, so this is pretty cool. I also had in my notes that a personal collection for after hours grooving is fucking awesome. Spectre is a great intro, and then we kind of take this weird turn with It's Very Sunny. I didn't really like It's Very Sunny. The track is a little weird and kind of threw me off a little bit. It feels like the lows were turned like way the fuck up, and you almost hear clipping. Am I tripping?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Maybe it's meant to be like that, but maybe I'm just not artsy enough. But the mix continues with Last Sunset, which is a very much a Tycho sound. Of course, that's happening. Comes in with some fucking great trumpet work, and you know that spoke to me.
Oh yeah,
And then, hey,
I knew it.
have we covered Craft Spells on here? Because I've been listening to them for about a year.
I
just
think
discovered
so.
them.
Now that you say that, I
Yeah.
think so.
It's awesome they're working with Tycho, or at least allowed him to use this in his mix, because I really love their sound.
I think it's one of their songs.
This whole mix is great. I don't know if I should rate it because it's less of an album and more of a mix, but I did really enjoy it.
I shouldn't have. Rated it.
Our Park by Night is the best out of the tracks that were selected, in my opinion. I really like that track.
Yeah, shouts out to Craft Spells. Shouts out to Nate Murisow. I butchered that. And Louis
Definitely.
Lancaster. Those artists are fantastic. Gonna be
Nice.
checking them out after this for sure.
Sweet.
And good shit from Tycho, man.
Yes.
You know he's from NorCal, right?
I do know that. He plays in San Francisco often. He'll do like sunrise sets, which I think are pretty neat.
Yeah, he's fucking awesome. I think you and I listened to a vinyl of his one of the last times we hung out that you have.
Yes, epic.
Yeah, that's just good hanging out with people music.
It's perfect. It's like smooth and like kind of guitar jazzy, but also electronic and also kind of atmospheric, and it just kind of it's just like lighting a candle, you know?
It's great. It's great, man. I love that album. All right, next up we got a new album from Prodigy called Jesus Christ. The Hegelian Dialectic 2, The Book of Heroine. That is such a 90s rap album name. Dear God, man. What are your thoughts on this?
So I kind of maybe I didn't like process it fully when it happened, but I remember it happening. Prodigy's dead, and this is his first posthumous album. Obviously, first of all, rest in peace. I remember being shocked when he died because I'm pretty sure it was right before Mobb Deep was supposed to play Hard Summer that same year. Him and Havoc have made some of my favorite hip hop of all time, and I'm glad that we got these verses. There are some really good rhymes here, and there's some subpar rhymes on here, but that's kind of expected with an album that's, comes after he's dead. So these never really saw the light of day for a reason, whatever that was, whether that be he never found the right production for it or didn't like them is another thing. I guess this is part 2 in a trilogy of concept albums that was planned before he passed, and he had released the Dialectic 1, The Book of Revelation, just 5 months before he passed. So I don't know, man. It's not one of the best albums this year or this genre or otherwise, but it was still a really good listen. I think I think because he's not alive to hear it, I didn't rate it, but because it's probably not fair or whatever. I don't know. I wish there was a Havoc feature on here or something on here, something as sort of like a tribute, but I'm sure there will be something when Havoc releases another Mobb Deep album, which I think is coming either later this year or early next year. I did thoroughly enjoy the record. It has a cool thematic kind of overlay with the women in his life being kind of his heroes, which is, I think, why it's called The Book of Heroine. It's about, it's about sex and heroism and all that kind of stuff. This album art is fucking wild.
It is.
And I'm glad we got this. I don't know if they're going to finish the trilogy, or maybe he recorded a bunch of the verses for the third album or whatever, but I am glad that we got this. What did you think about this record?
I thought it was pretty good. I did not know that he was dead. That is rest in peace, like you said. That said, I'm not a big fan of posthumous releases. I'm not a fan of the idea of them, I suppose, even though some good music has come from a few of them. This album, that makes a lot of sense. This doesn't feel complete to me. Yeah. It feels a little imbalanced. Like you have a song like the DJ Premier track, which easily would have been on the album. But there's other songs that feel underproduced compared to that, Yeah. And there's other good music on here. Like this is a bars over everything type of style, and that shines through even when it's underproduced. Tracks like Dope and I Heart You were really fucking good.
I Heart You is great.
But yeah, it's a really good song, but I think it's a good album. I just think it could have sounded a lot better. But given what it is, I guess, it sounds like it was mostly complete. They were able to finish it to a respectable degree. I don't know, man. It's a good album. I think Walkout's the easy standout.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel right rating it if he did not approve of its release either.
Yeah, and I also heard that, you know, him and Havoc obviously have been, you know, partners in whatever for a long time, and I think that he had part to do with the one before he died. But then I think his estate handled the hiring of the production for this one, which is kind of why it doesn't feel as authentic as some of his other work. And so, you know, it is what it is. But I'm glad we got this music. I'm glad we got to hear it for what it is, you know?
Yep. It's all the killers and the $100 billers, man.
Here it is.
All right. Last up this month, we got a new album from Beverly Kills called Kaleido. I think that's how you pronounce it.
That's how I would.
Tell me about this one, man. You've showed me this band. I'm sure you were anticipating this release.
Yeah, man, this is fucking cool. I'm really glad I found this band because I'm like super into it. They have this kind of droning indie rock that I really dig. New Berlin is a great intro. The droning kind of rhythm guitar with the bluesy riffs kind of create this atmosphere on the getaway that I just can't get enough of. This is kind of the theme of their sound, and it doesn't really vary that often except for Fantasia, where that kind of grating, repetitive riff still rubs me the wrong way. The majority of the vocal performance on this record is designed, I think, to create the kind of like a recreation of the vibe of maybe Paul Banks from Interpol. And I think it's working. It's got this kind of monotone aspect, but because she has obviously a very feminine voice to it, I think it really works. This is a hell of a debut, man. I am definitely a fan of this band. I really liked it. In the future, I'd love to see maybe more kind of targeted vocal variations, maybe a little bit more risky instrumentation, but this is a great debut album. I really did love a lot of very specific moments on this record, and I gave it a 7. My standout was Amorpho. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I like it, so.
I love hearing you struggle to pronounce things on this podcast once in a while, too. Oh man, everything I liked about the singles is everything I liked about this album. They are really talented and they should have more monthly listeners than they do, but releases like this should help a lot with that. My favorite of the non-singles are the intro New Berlin, which you just touched on. Great song. And my standout is Peach Melba. That one was the one I kept coming back to the most and was always excited to get to when I'd start the album over. This is a solid album, man. I'm excited to see where it takes them. I give it a 7 out of 10. Are they going to go on tour or anything? Have you been keeping up with any of that?
You know, I'm not 100%. I'll look into it, but they should, and they'll probably sell some tickets if they do, because, again, I mean, they're a very young band. This is their debut album. They have 1,300 followers on Spotify, but, you know, about 4,000 monthly listeners. So
sure.
They're a tiny band, but they should definitely go, I don't know, open up for Fontaine's DC or something, even though they're opening up for Arctic Monkeys or whatever. I don't know.
That's a show. That's a fucking show.
That would be a show,
man.
right?
I mean, bands need more than one opener. Throw them as the first opener, you know?
That's
the lights on opener.
The opener for the opener, you know?
I love it. I love it. They're not paying us enough.
They're definitely not paying us anything. So
they are not. You want to know what we're going to be talking about next week?
I most definitely do, John.
We got new albums from Defini, Easy Life, King Gizzard, Lamb of God, Twee, and Willow. Which of those are you most excited for?
We have a new Twee album? Didn't we already cover a new Twee album this year?
We covered her album from last year when I discovered her. But even at that, I'm very surprised she's already putting out her sophomore album. But yes, she is putting out an album this week, which I'm very surprised by.
I don't know, man. I'm excited for all of them. We'll see.
Yeah, me too. It should be a lot of fun, man. And this is the first of 3 King Gizzard albums we're getting this month.
Oh, yeah. I sent you the music video for their new song. It's very good.
You did.
And I'm very excited for it. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. Please check the show notes after the episode and follow along with our rotating playlist. We're going to be clearing it after this episode and adding a whole bunch of new music. Easy Life and Willow actually dropped new singles this week, and I'm going to add those in case any of you want to check those out, but we will be deleting those tomorrow night when the albums drop. So make sure to check those out. Check all these fun albums out. Follow us on Instagram, Reddit, wherever you get your podcasting platforms. Anything else you want to say, Brandon?
I'm good. Let's go.
All right. We'll see you all next week. Peace.